Hi, I'm Barry Lubers, North American Business Director for Alta Seeds. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for our first ever Sorghum Frontiers Field Tour for our U.S. brand Alta Seeds. Like everyone in the U.S., and for that matter everyone around the world, we've had to adjust our way of bringing these field tours to our growers. We want to keep our employees and our customers safe during this pandemic, so this will be given through a virtual field tour, and this will be the first virtual field tour that we've ever done. In the coming hour, you'll hear from our experts and see firsthand the first non-GMO herbicide-tolerant sorghum in the world. It is known as iGrowth, and we believe it will revolutionize the sorghum production in the U.S. iGrowth has already been launched successfully in many countries around the globe and will be the first herbicide-tolerant sorghum available for American growers for the 2021 growing season. You'll also hear about and see our field trials for iGrowth and the companion herbicide from UPL known as Imiflex. We do expect registration of Imiflex from the EPA this fall. In addition, we will also showcase our sugarcane aphid tolerant technology known as Afix, as well as our premier treatment Vertix. While we filmed this footage in South Texas a few weeks ago, this is the first time that many of you across the sorghum belt are able to see the new iGrowth herbicide technology, our sugarcane aphid tolerance technology with Afix, and our premier seed treatment Vertix. Again, I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to attend this virtual field tour for Alta Seeds.
Well, thank you, sir. Hi there, folks. My name is Jennifer Latsky, and I'm the Associate Editor for High Plains Journal. I'll be your moderator for today, and please let me add our welcome to the first ever Alta Seeds Sorghum Frontiers Virtual Field Day. You know, for 70 years, High Plains Journal has been a fixture in your mailboxes. I know it was certainly that case at the Latsky residence. But the world keeps bringing us new platforms to share agricultural education and information with you, our neighbors. So it was only natural that we work with Alta Seeds to bring this Sorghum Frontiers Virtual Field Day to your home screens. Now, over the last 4 months, I'm sure you've had some experience with Zoom webinar platforms, but for those of you who are joining us and are maybe unfamiliar with how this will work, let me share some notes. First off, we've already muted your video and your microphones, and we ask that you keep your video and audio muted throughout the webinar to reduce interruptions. You can look for the icons at the lower left-hand corner of your screen and make sure that they have red flashes through them. Next, you'll likely have questions, and that is exactly what we want to hear. We ask that you click on the chat box below and type your questions in the pop-up box that appears to the side of your screen. Now, we may not have time to answer every single question during this webinar, but we will have our presenters' contact information available on the registration website after this. Feel free to reach out to them with any questions we didn't have a chance to get to right here. This virtual field day will be recorded, and the recording and slides will be posted soon after we're done at hpj.com/sorghumfrontiers. Now, if you're here for CEU credits offered by the Texas Department of Agriculture, you should have already given your applicator license number when you registered. Credits are only available to Texas applicators who are signed in and watching the whole virtual field day live. That's straight from TDA, folks. We don't control that requirement. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Tanner Antonick with Alta Seeds to talk to you about Afix sugarcane aphid tolerant hybrids.
Hello, my name's Tanner Antonick, and I'm the Central United States Sales Manager for Alta Seeds. Today we're down here in Lyford, Texas at the Texas Agri-Science Center, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about sugarcane aphids, their impact on sorghum, and what Alta Seeds is doing to combat this widespread issue. As I'm sure many of you remember well, back during the 2013 growing season, sugarcane aphid populations absolutely exploded. A combination of that population explosion, along with susceptible hybrids and a general lack of understanding about these pests, led to widespread crop devastation. Today, Advanta is working on regaining grower trust and the acres we lost during that period through our premier label, Alta Seeds. Within our Alta Seeds brand, our APHIX designated hybrids offer the highest levels of sugarcane aphid tolerance within the industry. Sugarcane aphid feeding on sorghum during grain development can cause significant crop losses, reducing yields and stunting plant growth. The aphid intercepts nutrients intended for the development of leaves and grain heads by feeding on the plant sap. Those heavy infestations of SCA during grain field will reduce your yields by reducing your grain size and quality. The first step in preventing crop losses from SCA infestations is to select a sorghum hybrid with tolerance to this pest. Tolerant hybrids can withstand or recover from insect damage compared to those more susceptible hybrids. It is important to note that scouting is still an essential part of managing your aphid pressure. SCA tolerant hybrids will reduce your risk, often have a higher threshold for pressure than those susceptible hybrids, but in extreme conditions may still require some treatment. When we speak about aphid tolerance in our APHIX designated hybrids, I like to break it down into two different segments. The first is just the tolerance of the plant. Texas A&M has said that aphid tolerance for a plant before you start seeing negative impact is about 100 aphids per leaf, or about the size of a quarter. As we looked and we've done our screening, we've noticed that some plants have higher thresholds. While this doesn't slow the growth and you're still going to need to spray, this does buy you some extra time in the field to make sure you can go in there and save that crop. Outside of tolerances, we can also look at our naturally occurring traits within the plant, such as antizoonosis and antibiosis. These are just things that help slow the population growth and they're naturally occurring within our sorghum hybrids. So we go out there and we scout populations. Products that have those naturally occurring defense mechanisms will have less aphids on the leaf compared to our susceptible products. This helps eliminate the risk of spraying early in the season. Today, we've come a really long way since 2013. Dr. Ben Beyer and his team have gone ahead and actually put 6 different APHIX designated hybrids into our branded lineup that fit geographies across the United States. For our purpose here today, I really wanted to point out 3 of them. The first is the hybrid to my left, 1203. You can see it here. 1203 is really what put Alta Seeds on the map. It was the first hybrid we had that exhibited high levels of sugarcane aphid tolerance and allowed us to designate our first hybrid as APHIX. 1203 is still a mainstay in our Central and South Texas demos and production settings. This hybrid travels extremely well, goes across multiple different soil types. We'll be able to plant it all the way down in the Rio Grande Valley, up through Waco. It exhibits very high levels of sugarcane aphid tolerance from the seedling stage on through flowering. It's been an extremely strong product with good vigor, and we really like seeing it out there, and this is going to be a staple of ours for years to come. Now, one of our new additions to our lineup is our G1153. As you can see here, compared to our 1203, it's a much more vibrant red color. One of the things I really like about it is it's going to offer us something a little bit earlier season down here in South Texas. This is going to be a 63-day to mid-bloom, but we can see it shorten up a little bit, and it's going to be great for those guys that have to get in the field a little bit late or just want to get out and harvest it early. One of the other really unique things with G1153 is it's the first hybrid in our commercial lineup that has sugarcane aphid tolerance present in both the male and the female. While this allows us to have the highest level of sugarcane aphid tolerance in the hybrid, it also allows us in our production setting to have a safer production environment too. While this allows us to have the highest level of sugarcane aphid tolerance in the hybrid, it also allows us in our production setting to have a safer production environment too. If we have aphid pressure, we're not having to worry about going in and spraying and seeing yield loss on those production fields, and so we have a safer producible hybrid. The last hybrid I want to talk about is our XG397. The reason I bring it up is this is our next stage of upcoming hybrids. This is our final year of its testing. For the Central and South Texas areas, what's going to be really exciting is we're going to see this as an improvement upon 1203. It's going to be a little longer in maturity. It's going to allow us to move further up that Gulf Coast as we get closer to Houston. For those of you out there that use our G2275, this is going to be a hybrid that has a similar maturity, but it's going to offer you a little bit more top end and have that APHIX designation as well. So we're really excited to bring more hybrids to market. Thanks for joining us in the field, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Hey, thanks for that, Tanner. Now we're going to take a look at our questions that you've submitted during Tanner's presentation while Tanner joins us live. Remember to submit a question at any time during our virtual field day. Just click on the chat box and type it right there. We'll try to get to as many as we can in the time that we have. So while we wait on your questions, Tanner, I have one. Are you with us, buddy?
Yep, I'm right here.
Okay. Tanner, how does a hybrid get the APHIX designation? Could you explain that a little bit more?
Absolutely. So we actually have two different main centers that we do our aphid tolerance screening. The first is in Tamaulipas, in Irapuato, Mexico. And that's where we do a lot of our seedling and early season aphid screenings. One of the really interesting things about that area is they actually have aphid pressures year round. As we get up here into Texas and move north, we often see a couple months that are hot spots. So when we're down there in Irapuato, we can see that where the aphid tolerance is all the way from seedling stage through maturity, and it helps us really weed out any products that may lose some tolerance later in the season or early on. The second location is in College Station, where our breeding facility is. And Dr. Ben Beyer and his team, one of the unique things is they actually put in a late season planted crop. They actually planted it yesterday. We were out in the field. And their goal is to have it flowering during about September. And that way we see it during a peak time for sugarcane aphids, and we can really stress those hybrids out and see which hybrids truly deserve that APHIX designation. Well, outside of our own team, we actually partner with universities and with the USDA to screen these hybrids as well. And that we make sure we have that third-party testing to back up our claims of sugarcane aphid tolerance.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like we've got a couple of questions over here from Brent C. Which hybrids are best suited for regions east of the Mississippi River? And will the commercial name for 1153 and 397 be different compared to the ADV number?
So the first question on which hybrids are best suited as we move east. The 1203 that I mentioned early on, we're actually selling that right now all the way up into the Carolinas. That one would travel east well also. What we call it a medium early, as we move into higher moisture areas, we see it extend maturity. So it's really going to yield well with the competitors out there and offer that APHIX designation. We have some other hybrids that actually come out of our Mexico program as well that we sell, such as our 3247 or our 3189. These are full season hybrids. And those two hybrids actually offer the highest levels of tolerance within our APHIX designation as well. So you're getting cream of the crop products in a fuller season, maybe a better fit for some of those markets.
All right.
The second one, the commercial name for 1153 is the 1153. You may have seen it in some test plots. But as far as this is our introduction to the lineup, the commercial name will be 1153. And the 397, it does not have a commercial number yet. So right now, that's what we're using as our experimental number. It's in some of the university trials. But as we advance it into the portfolio, it will change, and we'll have to communicate that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Just go ahead and type them in the chat window there. While we're waiting on that, does Alta Seeds offer any other forages with APHIX?
We do. Really exciting. We have a new silage type product called our 8322. This is going to be a conventional forage sorghum, but it's going to have that APHIX designation. It'll be the first commercially available hybrid with that designation. It'll be available for sale this year. We're really excited because we can compare it to our 8301. And as we go through our plots, we're actually seeing not only the aphid tolerance, but about a 10% yield bump as well. So we're bringing a extremely high yielding product to the market that has APHIX as well. So it's going to be really the industry standard for conventional forage sorghum going forward. In addition to that, we do have a BMR6 sorghum sedan entering the lineup this year that will be designated APHIX. So those guys that want a multi-cut product will have an offering there too.
Okay. It looks like we've got one more question. Which eye-growth varieties will be available for the Texas Panhandle? Mitch, you read my mind, buddy, because we are just about ready for that one, okay? Thank you so much, Tanner, and we've got to move on to our next tour stop. Remember, folks, if we don't get to your question here, you can contact Tanner directly. His information will be at the hpj.com/Sorghum Frontiers website, along with this recording, or you can always call Alta Seeds customer service at 844-529-3420. All right. It is now time and on to a tour stop that everyone is excited to see, including Mitch. Here to tell us about iGrowth, the world's first non-GMO herbicide-tolerant sorghum, and the companion Imiflex herbicide. Here are Dr. Zach Eider, Technology Development Manager for the U.S. for Alta Seeds, Lynn Justison, UPL Technical Services Lead for row crops in North America, and Ben Beyer, USA Sorghum Lead for Advanta and Alta Seeds.
I'm Dr. Zach Eder. I'm the Technology Development Manager for the United States for Advanta Seeds, and my role in the company is to bring products from the R&D drawing board and into your field. Today we're going to be talking about the iGrowth technology, a non-GMO sorghum-based herbicide-tolerant technology that is going to be commercially available in the United States for the first time. What the iGrowth technology is going to do for you is going to allow for a pre or post application of a broadleaf and grass herbicide brought to you by our partner and parent company, UPL. This is a project that's been underway for over a decade with our global partners, including those in Argentina and Australia, where we have now commercially launched this product. We're very excited that in the coming months we'll be launching this technology here in the United States. My role as the TD manager for the U.S. is to bring the best genetics out of our R&D program to your farm, as well as to bring the most robust program possible for your production system. We look forward to sharing these hybrids with you. And with that, let's go look at some hybrids. This hybrid is the 1142 iGrowth. This is a medium early, 60 to 62 days to mid-bloom hybrid that's going to be broadly adapted, focusing on the Central Texas to the Great Plains market. This is a hybrid that's going to give you good exertion in the field, a brilliant red grain, and good producibility even on dryland acres. This hybrid is 2177 iGrowth. This is a medium maturity entry into the marketplace. This is a broadly adapted hybrid with good to top end yield potential, primarily adapted for the upper Gulf Coast of Texas and into the eastern Kansas market. It has moderate sugarcane aphid tolerance, good standability, and strong exertion out of the flag leaf, and I hope you include it in your rotation. This hybrid is 2168 iGrowth. This is a broadly adapted hybrid that's specifically focusing on that western market, the Texas Panhandle, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and western Kansas, Garden City, and the Great Bend region. It's a red grain with good exertion, top end yield potential in that medium maturity class that does so well in that environment. This is one that we really want to get on your farm today. This hybrid is 2193 iGrowth. This is a medium maturity product for us, broadly adapted, but has a really strong fit for our Texas environments, the Gulf Coast. Strong disease package, brilliant red grain color, and great yield potential in that maturity class that fits so well in this environment. This is one that we hope that you will take a look at this coming year. 1120 iGrowth is a unique product in the iGrowth lineup. This is a partnership with our Australian R&D team to bring this to the United States. This is a strong dryland performer across the U.S., but particularly it's going to find a great fit in our Great Plains environments in Kansas, Oklahoma, and the Texas Panhandle, and dipping down into Central Texas. Brilliant red grain color, and under great growing conditions in irrigation, it's going to have a little bit more height with strong exertion out of the flag leaf. Under dryland conditions, it's still a strong performer, but it will shorten up in height. Overall, it's a great partnership we have with our global team to bring this to us in the United States. If you have any questions about our hybrids or anything else, please get in contact with us today. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Lynn Justison with UPL. I'm the Technical Services Lead for row crops in North America. I'm here to introduce to you today the EmiFlex herbicide. EmiFlex herbicide is an EPA registration pending herbicide for use within the iGrowth system. It is the lead and only registered companion product to be used within the iGrowth system. In 2015, we did a survey that went through looking at the key grass species that are impactful within the grain sorghum system. Within that, there's many key ones, and ones similar to something like a Johnson grass, the Texas panicum, or Colorado grass. We're also looking at things like crabgrass and the foxtails as well. As you went through that system, what research has shown us in that is that somewhere between 44 and 80+% of our yield can be lost by not controlling those grasses within that system. system. Typically not an issue, but the issue within the grain sorghum is we've had very, very limited options to do any of those sort of things post-emerge. So we really have one shot in order to control any of those, and that is with a pre-emerge herbicide system. The problem is if we miss that, there's no real options to come back. That is where the EmiFlex fits into that system, and it allows us both a pre-emerge and now a post-emerge application of a Mazamox into the iGrow system. As you look at that and you start thinking about how to control weeds within the iGrow system, tank mix is the key. And the flexibility that we have shown in our research with the EmiFlex in that system is a real difference maker for us. The EmiFlex is a product which can, depending on your weed species, make a real difference on what you pick for a tank mix partner. If you're looking at something like a Texas panicum or Colorado signal grass, you really need to look at whether it's pre-emerge or post-emerge. You need to look at something in the group 15 herbicide class like a Moccasin 2 Plus that would have the ability to be tank mixed either pre or post-emerge with the EmiFlex in that system. When we do that, we see an improvement from somewhere in the 30% range. Data shows us to 80% control out to 57 days after the final application. On the broadleaf side of things, if you look at a very specific thing like our resistant water hemp species out there, there are good post-emerge control options with that, but you can do a one-shot deal with the EmiFlex, and by picking the right tank mix partner, whether it be atrazine or a product with a mesotrione like a coyote, as an application partner with the EmiFlex, you can then control water hemp out to that same 57-day period and actually have better control at 57 days than a standard system has at 14 days after application. In terms of crop safety with the iGrowth and the EmiFlex, our data has shown that across 25 field trials in 2019, we had less than 0.5% of crop response from the EmiFlex. Our data has shown that we have a tremendous tank mix partner. We can control grass and broadleaves that we have not been able to control to this point. In conclusion, I want to thank you for your time here today, and I want to thank you for your attention to this. We please ask you to consider looking at the iGrowth system featuring the EmiFlex herbicide in it.
Welcome to the virtual field day. I'm Dr. Ben Byer. I'm the USA sorghum breeding lead for Advanta and Alta Seeds, and I'm currently based out of College Station, Texas. In addition to the College Station research facility, we also have another USA research facility at Manhattan, Kansas, as well as a research facility down in central Mexico. And then we have sorghum breeding research stations in Australia and Argentina as well. In Advanta and Alta Seeds, we've tried to bring the very best genetics possible with the iGrowth herbicide tolerance. One of the ways that we're looking to improve upon this for the near future is we've taken some of our elite lines for our current commercial products, and we've entered those into what we call the trait integration system, which uses the markers for iGrowth to try to bring in the trait to our current elite lines. So you could have hybrids that are very similar to what you're currently planting, what we currently offer commercially with iGrowth in the near future, as well as we're also using some of the lines that have our aphid sugarcane aphid tolerance. So in the next few years, we're hoping to be able to release an iGrowth sugarcane aphid tolerant hybrid for growers. In Advanta and Alta Seeds, we don't just do breeding at our R&D centers, we do breeding at additional sites as well. So outside of College Station, for example, I have 2 locations in South Texas where I'm breeding not only for conventional grain sorghum, but iGrow sorghum as well. So what this allows us to do is we're able to select for drought tolerance, sugarcane aphid tolerance, and other agronomic attributes that are needed for growers to maximize their yield potential. In addition to this, we're also doing many locations in South and Central Texas and in Kansas. And what this allows us is to be able to see the hybrid performance across a wide range of environments. Not only just the good environments, but what does it do in a typical grower's environment. And that way we get the best possible package of hopefully iGrowth, aphids, and yield potential all together in one. Also, we are working on iGrowth hybrids in the silage and Sorghum-Sudangrass, and these will become a part of our Empire lineup. So we hope to have a full suite of iGrowth hybrids, not only for grain, but also for the forage and silage market. and also tried to bring in the aphid sugarcane aphid tolerance using marker assisted selection.
Well, hey, thanks for that, gentlemen. And a reminder, folks, pending EPA registration, Imiflex is expected available for use in the 2021 growing season. Alrighty, it looks like we've already got a few questions, but remember to submit your questions, just click on the chat box and type them in there. So Zach, Mitch's question, what eye-growth varieties will be available for the Texas Panhandle?
That's a good question. There's a couple of them tying all together. So when we look at the Panhandle production, all 5 of the hybrids are going to be strong fits there. It's going to fit more towards what your production system is going to be. Are you going to be limited irrigation, better ground? We're going to look more into the 2000 series. So our numbering system, the first number tends to indicate what class of maturity it is. So any of the 2100s are going to be a good fit there. But the 1142, which was the first hybrid we mentioned, is still a strong fit. We have a product on the market, AG1201. Maturity-wise, the 1142 is going to match up very well to it. So if you're familiar with it, it's going to be a good fit together. So it just really depends on your production. But if you want more yield, the longer maturities are definitely going to do that for you.
Okay. Looking down here, we'll check this one. The best eye-growth hybrid for dryland in south central Kansas, south of Great Bend, in fairly sandy, low organic matter soil, average 28 inches of rain per year. And will Imiflex be able to tank mix post-emergence with husky and or dicamba? So Zach, I'll let you take that one first, and then we'll hit up Lynn.
Okay, so for that region, we're going to have a lot of data coming in here in the next 3 months on that particular region because it's such a strong fit for a lot of these hybrids. I would definitely, looking at my cheat sheet right here in front of me, I would probably be looking at the 2168 as the best yielding one for that region. And when we get into a situation like we have this year where you're having a little bit shorter season or you're having to replant, that's where we'd go towards the 1142 or the 2177. And I would like to, I did see a question pop up. Are we trying to adapt for product or markets in Africa? Indefinitely. We're a global company. We're working with my partners, my colleagues all around the world, and we are sending seed and working in the African markets as well. So look for developments in the coming years.
Okay, Lynn, question on Imiflex. Can we tank mix?
All right. Yeah, so a great question. We've submitted multiple tank mix options. Husky and some of the 2,4-Ds and those sort of things have been added to that. Those are things that we've submitted, but as we know, as we stated earlier, we are pending EPA registration right now, so we're waiting for that. As soon as we have that, we will know for sure what is on the label. So to this point, I can't say for sure if Husky is or not. I know we've submitted many of those, and I've seen the list, but until we receive EPA registration, we can't really talk to those points just yet.
And we have a question, two-parter again. Still with Lynn, when are you expecting to obtain EPA registration? And then back to Zach, we have a question about, are these the same hybrids that we're looking at in Mexico?
Okay, yep. We're expecting EPA registration for the 2021 growing season is the short story. With COVID and many of the reasons why we're doing a virtual tour today, we've seen things back up at the EPA as well. So what we're looking at right now is we're looking for, we fully expect to have something by the 2021 growing season and have it in time for this year.
All righty.
And as for the component about Mexico, I think Nico's probably on this call, but I have a counterpart, a TD manager that covers all of Mexico. We work hand in hand. We speak multiple times a week, and we share a lot of data. One of the things that we have looked at is they have different environments. You get down into the Bajío, central Mexico, you have high tannin markets, and they're aggressively working on advancing hybrids for all of those different niche markets. But we also pool data for the Tamaulipas, northern Mexico, and South Texas markets together. And so that's where you're going to see the 1120 be a good fit. We're seeing a lot of positive results out of the Tamaulipas market, which would translate into South Texas. But then all of those 5 hybrids are in the testing program down there.
Okay. Just a reminder, folks, if you want to submit a question, just click on the chat button at the bottom of your screen, and there will be a box that pops up, and you can type your question in there. Alrighty, it looks like we've got another one for Lynn. Lynn, how effective will Imiflex be in controlling crabgrass post-emergence?
Our data has shown we do a really nice job post-emergence, and we also do, surprisingly, when you pick the proper tank mix partner, we also do the data will also show you that we do a good job with it pre-emerge as well. So again, the flexibility of the Imiflex and the iGrow system is a tremendous asset for everybody in and around that system. So we'll do a nice job on that, is what the data is showing us.
Okay, great. Hey, Zach, we have a question from Joel. What was the first iGrowth variety ID again that we spoke about that you brought to mind?
Which would be the that would be the ADVG 1142. That's the fastest maturity that we've seen consistently across the U.S. So that's why it has the 1,000 number. But that was the first one we talked about.
Okay. Hope we answered that for you. We have another one here. Do you have cost estimates for this grain sorghum hybrid and for Imiflex?
I'll go ahead and I'll answer the one around the Imiflex. We don't have an estimate on any of that right now. Again, we're pending registration, and it's illegal for us to discuss pricing at all with that because we don't have a registration at this point. So stay tuned. We're super excited to get it out and to share all that information with you just as soon as we can.
And as for the grain sorghum hybrids, we'll be rolling out prices here in the coming months as we begin our booking and everything else starts rolling. A lot of that we're pending with the EPA, so that ties a lot together. So we don't want to put one out before the other. So that way we can give you a full system cost whenever the time comes.
Okay. We've got a question here. What seed treatments will be available for the iGrowth hybrids?
So we are going to have a component here in a second to talk through all of the seed treatments, but they will be fully treated with our Vertex Premier option, and I think we'll have a pretty good presentation here to really describe how that's going to work.
Okay. We've got a few more minutes here from Sterling. As we lose our water table here in western Kansas, feed yards are becoming more interested in sorghum for their feed. Looks like they are mostly interested in a waxy variety. Are we looking at anything that will fill these needs as we move forward? Not only in just a regular hybrid, but in the Imiflex as well, or in the iGrowth as well. I think he probably meant iGrowth and not Imiflex.
I'll let Dr. Ben answer that because he's working with the stuff that's a little further out, but that is of interest to us. We are aware of the growing interest for that. Dr. Ben, did you want to comment on that?
As far as waxy hybrids, we are working on some of those hybrids right now in the grains, and then we have to evaluate the need for a waxy with iGrowth based off of the weed populations that Imiflex can control. It's a very high likelihood, but we have to have the performance first before we go and launch a hybrid, and we have to know what the markets for that hybrid is going to be.
Okay. And we've got another one that got submitted. Does iGrowth yield as well as other Alta Seeds hybrids? Zach?
Yes. So when we analyze all these hybrids, every January we make product advancements. All products are compared within their maturity class against comparable hybrids, and these products perform on par. But we always like to view them as, if you took away the iGrowth, would you still grow this hybrid? And they are. They're still very competitive hybrids in their different maturity classes. The important thing as you go in and start using this program on your own farm, 2 factors start playing a role. First, you need to be looking at likes and likes. So if you're looking for a top-end, full maturity, high-yielding hybrid and you're comparing it against the medium early, it's really not a fair comparison. And then also when we look at the actual technology and the weeds we control, we have to remember that the yield that we have is greatest when that seed first goes in the ground, and it's all downhill from there. This technology is all about staving off yield losses and holding back that weed pressure so that you can make the most out of that ground, whereas without that technology, it would be a complete loss. So that's really where we start comparing these hybrids to each other.
Okay. So it looks like we have one more question, and then we'll have to move on, folks. Two more. Will the iGrowth hybrid trait be available in forage varieties? And I think we already said that we're looking ahead at those, right, guys?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the active ingredient in Emiflex, what is that active ingredient?
Imazamox.
Imazamox.
Yes.
Lynn, I'm really glad that you can say that because that is a mouthful.
No worries. So I'm here.
All righty, gentlemen. Well, hey, folks, if you've got more questions that we didn't get to, as we move on to our next tour stop, you can either put them in the chat box and our fellows here will answer those while we're looking at the next tour stop, or you can feel free to contact our speakers directly. That information will be at our registration site, or you can always call Alta Seeds customer service at 844-529-3420. Okay, so our next tour stop is a product that many of you are very familiar with. Here to talk about Verdict seed treatments and their options is Ryan Bryant, Technical Services Manager for UPL.
Hi, my name is Dr. Ryan Bryant. I'm the Technical Services Manager for UPL in their South and Central regions. I'm excited to be here today with you and talk a little bit about the Verdict seed treatment options offered by Alta Seeds with their grain sorghum hybrids. Verdict seed treatments come in two primary options that will be available for producers. One is Verdict Premier, the second is Verdict Select. Verdict Premier contains two fungicides known in the active ingredients ipraconazole and metalaxyl. In addition to those two fungicides, Verdict Premier will also contain an insecticide in the form of imidacloprid. Additionally to that, Verdict Premier and Verdict Select will contain fluorozole. Fluorozole is the active ingredient in the UPL product Mesh, which is a herbicide safening agent that allows for the use of group 15 herbicides such as S-metolachlor, also known as Moccasin 2 Plus, offered by UPL, for use as a pre-emergent herbicide in grain sorghum production systems. When comparing the use of Mesh to the industry standard Concept 3 seed treatments, we see a higher degree of seed safety from the use of Mesh with treated grain sorghum seed. In laboratory studies comparing the use of Mesh to Concept 3, we saw a 62% reduction in seedling injury when using Mesh as compared to Concept 3. Within Verdict Select, what we see is just two fungicides, ipraconazole and metalaxyl, in addition to fluorozole, the herbicide safening agent. There's no insecticidal activity with Verdict Select. The type of disease suppression that we'll see from both Verdict Premier and Verdict Select sees control for a broad spectrum of diseases that cause seed rots, seedling blights, as well as damping off. Some of those species that it will offer protection and suppression against include Fusarium species, Aspergillus, Pythium, Penicillium, as well as early season Phytophthora, in addition to Rhizoctonia solani. The disease control that you'll see from that is offered both in Verdict Premier and Verdict Select. The difference between Verdict Select and Verdict Premier comes from the insecticide option offered in Verdict Premier. The insecticide offered in Verdict Premier is imidacloprid. That will offer us early season control against some of the damaging early season aphids, as well as wireworms, chinch bugs, and imported fire ants. In summary, what you get from Verdict Select is two modes of action that help to control a lot of the seed and soil-borne fungal pathogens that you see, in addition to the seed safener. With Verdict Premier, which can be found exclusively on iGrowth sorghum offered by Alta Seed in the coming growing season, you'll get disease protection from the two fungicide mode of actions, insecticide, as well as the herbicide safening agent. The use of seed treatments is highly encouraged. Utilizing a seed treatment in your production system will allow you to have the best chance at getting your crop off to a fast and vigorous start, allowing you to have the best shot at obtaining your optimum yield potential at the end of the season.
Alrighty, hey, thanks, Ryan. Well, now while we wait for some questions on Vertex, here's a few that have already been submitted to us. First off, what's the difference in the herbicide safener in Vertex and Concept 3? Ryan, can you help us out there?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jennifer. So that's one of the main primary questions with it. Like was mentioned in the video, the safener in Vertex is known as mesh. So the active ingredient in mesh is known as fluorozole, and that differs from what's used in Concept 3. So that's where we see it set itself apart. And with that active ingredient fluorozole, what we see is that higher degree of seed safety from the use of group 15 herbicides. So fluorozole really heightens the grain sorghum plant's ability to readily metabolize those group 15 herbicides and avoid those phytotoxic concentrations. So in addition to that, by amplifying the ability of those plants to detoxify those herbicides, it increases the safety. So collectively across various rates, anywhere from the 1x, 2x, and 3x rates of group 15 herbicides used on seed treated with mesh, we see much higher seed safety and far less degrees of seedling injury when we compare it back to Concept 3.
Okay. Will Vertex be available for other Alta hybrids?
Yeah, so they'll be available for other hybrids. There's Vertex Core, that's pretty much the base package. And then on the video, we mentioned Vertex Select and Vertex Premier. Those are the two primary ones that will both contain the herbicide safening agent. So those are the ones you really want to shoot for with any of your grain sorghum hybrids, just with how big of a impact the group 15 herbicides are when we have our sorghum production systems. But all of the iGrowth hybrids will come treated exclusively with Vertex Premier, giving that insecticide, 2 modes of action for fungicides, as well as the safener.
Okay. It looks like, it doesn't look like we have any more questions on Vertex, but we do have a little bit of time here to reach back to some questions that we had for the previous tour stop. Gentlemen, are you up to answering those real quick?
Sure.
Okay. So we have questions on the Imiflex. Will Imiflex have any negative effect on rotations to a different crop? And what is the concentration of imazamox in Imiflex?
Okay, yeah. Imazamox, the active ingredient in Emiflex, was chosen specifically because of its ease of rotational restrictions and ease of rotation. Being very mindful of things like cotton and soybeans. Soybeans not so much, but cotton and corn would be two, and wheat would be kind of some of the key ones that we need to look at rotational wise. Again, we're waiting EPA registration, so we can't give you rotations exactly just yet. But please understand of the Emmy, and there's many Emmys, Emmy family products out there. Imazamox was picked specifically because of its flexibility and rotation. As far as the concentration, I can tell you with the concentration, the final concentration will be this: a 6-ounce use rate is going to be about 0.04 pounds per acre, so a very low use rate.
Okay. And Zach, real quick, I think we've touched on what are the good varieties of iGrowth for the Texas Panhandle, but how about the Oklahoma Panhandle? Any difference?
So in the Oklahoma Panhandle, we tend to see a lot more of that harsher dry land, especially with the soil type. And in that environment, we've been working with Dr. Josh Lofton at Oklahoma State and had quite a few trials out there in that region. The 2177 comes to mind. It has a tendency to kind of hold its ground in a drought, and when you catch that key rain, it'll finish out very nicely for you. But what I would be looking at is that 1120 or the 1142 in terms of the earlier maturity, just because with dry land, you want to get that crop in and get it out when you can.
Oh, we did have one question for Zach. Zach, can we purchase iGrowth seed right now, and how does that happen?
Yes, so what we're going through right now, obviously we've mentioned several times that we're still waiting on the EPA final registration for the Emiflex product, but you can go on igrowthtech.com and you can pre-book seed for the iGrowth hybrids. We know that there's probably going to be a strong demand for them. So seed will be kind of limited. So the earlier you get in, the more likely you are to get the hybrids that you're looking for.
Okay. And it looks like we do have, we had a question about, back on the weed control portion real quick. And I think we have a couple of photos that we took while we were down there shooting footage for today's event of just how well the product handles weeds and Texas panicum. If we could pull those up. And Lynn, you might want to talk a little bit about these if you've got a chance.
Yep. So I think the difference you saw there is just that. I think the thing and what our data would show across not only Dr. McGinty's site and all of our different sites is this. As we look at that, it's a matter of the Texas panicum control comes when we add something like Moccasin 2+2 that's to that control. We have shown similar to what he's shown in those various sites. It isn't as critical whether you put it on pre or post, but we have to get them in the tank. And the two we have to have is a class 15, and we have to have the Mazamox, right? We have to have the Emiflex in there. If we put those two in the tank, the data shows us that we improve the control greatly in and around the fall panicum, or not fall panicum, the Texas panicum or the Colorado signal glass. That's how you get it. That's the key to getting that one, is you really need that class 15 in there to help and to let those two work together. Atrazine is helpful. Atrazine will be very helpful on other things as far as a tank mix, but the biggest concern, the biggest one and the biggest thing we've seen is the two of those is you have to get them in the tank together, and they both have to go on the same acre. And if we can layer those out, that's when we see the best control.
Okay. So, well, folks, it's about that time. Thank you for joining us for the first ever Alta Seeds Sorghum Frontiers Virtual Field Day. All of us here want to thank you for watching and participating. And as we leave you, we want to leave you with a few reminders. This recording is going to be posted at the hpj.com/Sorghum Frontiers site where you registered. We'll also have everybody's contact information there in case you have any questions about any of the technologies you saw here today. Or you can always call Alta Seeds customer service 844-529-3420. I just want to take this moment to thank you again for inviting us into your homes today with the Alta Sorghum Frontiers Virtual Field Day. And here with a final parting word is Rusty Bevel, Central Sales Manager for Alta Seeds.
Hi, I'm Rusty Bevel, National Sales Director for Alta Seeds. We hope you enjoyed learning about iGrowth today, which we know will revolutionize U.S. sorghum production as it has in many parts of the world already. iGrowth raises the bar on weed control and gives you a valuable tool to use against yield-robbing weeds and grasses on your farm. Supplies of iGrowth will be short for the 2021 growing season, so make sure to reach out to your local Alta Seeds dealer or go online and order your iGrowth seed today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to one of our sales managers. For the Central United States, you can reach out to Tanner Antonick, or for Eastern or Western geographies, you can reach out to Mark Kirk. With the introduction of iGrowth, we know the 2021 growing season will be one to remember. We're looking forward to working with you to grow your most profitable sorghum crop ever and help meet the growing global demand for sorghum.